7:15 on Monday, June 25th, 2018, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note all in attendance, except for Mike Kotz, Councilman Kotz, and Councilman Fleschner. We should probably be along shortly. Our first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes approval of the minutes of the June 11th meeting, approval of bills and claims. We have 2 licenses and permits. The first one is a new special Class C liquor license with Class B wine permit with carryout wine, including native wine, at Bordenero's Meat Market. We also have a new Class C liquor license for J. Muggenberg LLC, doing business as Hourglass. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Party procedures.
Motion by Clay Haley, second by Laverne Dirks. We will vote.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Motion's approved.
Next item is oral requests and communications from the audience. Is there anything that anybody wanted to talk about other than what's on the agenda? If not, we have no ordinances this evening. So we'll move to resolutions. And our first resolution is the Recreation Center main entrance construction contract. Jack, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Last meeting, you did approve the bids for the, we had one bid from Beatty Construction for the west side entrance, ADA sidewalk entrance. This is just the contract that was signed by Beatty, and just for you to give the mayor authorization to sign the contract. Nothing has changed from the bid opening that you have approved.
What was the length of construction time on that? Do you remember, Jack?
I believe it's November.
November, okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
early November.
Are there any other questions for Jack? If not, I will need a motion to approve the resolution to enter into a contract with Beatty Construction for the main entrance ADA upgrades.
So moved.
Well, don't you have to have the price?
Yeah, we'll note it in the minutes.
Okay.
For the amount of $54,500 bid price and a unit price of $40.
So
We'll
moved
add
as
that.
amended.
Second.
We have a motion by Clay Haley to approve the contract and a second by Councilman Dirks.
Bates? Yes. Fleschner? Oh, he's
No,
not here, sorry.
not yet.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Thank you. The second item on the agenda is the Northeast Park All-Inclusive Playground Equipment 2018 Report of Bid Opening. And Jack, please.
And again, on the ADA also, the $40, we're not anticipating any dirt need to be removed, so that probably was just in there for caution purposes, but probably won't be used, so I'd be surprised. Okay. The bid opening report for the all-inclusive playground at Northeast Park. The council, you have budgeted $50,000 towards this project. We did receive 4 bids, or 4 companies, 5 bids for the playground equipment. Went to the Parks and Rec Cultural Board in their early June meeting. I'm not going to read all the bids to you. You can read those. We had 2 companies that were present at the Parks and Rec Board meeting, Outdoor Recreation Products from Elkhorn and Bowling Recreation from Marshalltown, Iowa. Both presented to the Parks and Rec Board their proposals, their ideas. This went out as an RFP for suggestions of things we would like to see. what some of the things Parks and Rec saw, some of the things that Tigases saw, of ideas for this to make it a playground. In some instances, when we do playground equipment, we say we want a 12-foot slide, we want spinners, we have to have those things in there, where these were suggestions, a little bit different, but still, they just were suggestions. So we had two companies that were there, both presented. It came down to Bowling Recreation, option 2, as the preferred plan, and you do have those plans in front of you. Although, when we did open up bids, the Parks Rec Board did like option 2, but we knew with the Tigases there, Mike and Laverne were also at the meeting, that maybe we want to make some minor changes if there wasn't a major cost difference. So we did, the Tigases did request a couple changes that we did submit to Bowling Recreation, and that is the $165,000 proposal that you have. I brought the other ones, both companies, I have their plans here if you want to see them. But the Parks Rec Board recommendation, one of the Tigases and mine, we like option 2 of the plan for $165,000 in that plan. That does not include installation, because we did change some of the items. Does not include the install of the surface underneath with Bowling Recreation. There's really two options, a gravel, a little bit softer surface that maybe drains a little bit better as one surface. The other surface would be a poured concrete surface underneath of it. Probably longevity-wise, that's going to be a better project. We don't have exact costs on some of those items. I know the Tigases have talked to contractors about installing that part of it, so there would be a cost, hopefully, of just concrete and not labor for the most part. And they can definitely address those issues with that. But right now, and we can come back to another meeting with the installation part of it, of the playground equipment, and of the poured rubber will be done. That obviously needs to be done by a company that does that. But again, the stuff underneath can be done, and is done by cities in some instances. So I guess I would mention if you have specific questions, but tonight we really want you to approve the plan that's before you, the estimate of the $165,000 for the playground equipment and the rubber surface on top. We're going to select colors here shortly of both, but that's what really we have for you tonight. So again, we have $50,000, and the Tigases have raised $115,000. So that's how we came up with the $165,000. And they can address that end, how much of it's secure, and if there are any pledges or anything, if there's anything like that, they can address that.
So the concrete,
Would be on top.
that'll be an extra cost?
Yes.
You just don't have a finalized price for that yet?
You want an estimate, $8,000 to $10,000. I think if we approve the bid tonight, knowing that if you want me to come back with a concrete cost in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, we can get that. This is going to be 6 to 8 weeks before the equipment gets here anyway, and the surface. So, but we want to get the equipment ordered. We want to try to get it in.
So this will get you the equipment ordered, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's why, okay.
We actually, with what we fundraised.
Pat, I'm sorry, come on up to the microphone, I'm sorry. So the people at home can hear you too. Sorry,
Don't like this
I
one.
know.
We actually, with fundraising we've done, and looking at what we have in our account right now, we have the $50,000 that the city has dedicated. We have $25,000 in the grants that we've gotten, and we can actually come up with $110,000 ourselves for this project. So we can get this project up to 185,000, I think that comes up to, or whatever. I did do a bunch of work with Morehouse Ready Mix in town. They were gonna donate 7 yards of concrete and give us a discounted rate of $106 per yard on the concrete, which comes up to about $9,000 for concrete. I spoke to Kevin Brinks, Mark Schreck. I talked indirectly to Ryan Nelson and Keith Nelson. By that I mean I talked to Keith's wife, so if she says so, I'm sure Keith has to agree. They would be more than happy to donate labor to help install the concrete surface. Having said that, I did also talk to Tom Ike from Arcadia Limestone. They would work also with us at a discounted rate and donate a portion of the crushed surface. Again, everybody that I talked to seemed to think that the cement was the superior base for the project. So I think, like I say, couldn't necessarily guarantee 100% of the labor being donated, but I think between those guys talking about donating, a lot of the labor, we can get it done for, next to nothing, doing it that way. And like I say, Morehouse had done that for the concrete, so.
Usually when they bring projects, we got it all together. And
Yeah.
If it takes 8 weeks to get all the equipment in, I guess to me, it makes sense to get it going, so. Okay.
But they have the money to cover
Right.
the 10 grand, so we don't have to worry about it.
They pay for that. We'll just make sure we're involved
Yep.
when they do that.
Thanks, Pat.
Well, we have contract with Shad Hattery to work with the playground company and the installers, to make sure it's done at the right level. They'll be here when we
Yeah,
do that.
right. They have to survey and everything like that, so.
Yep.
Okay.
So have you made a final decision on crushed rock or cement yet?
They're gonna use cement.
We're gonna use cement, I think.
Okay, they haven't
Yeah.
made,
And if you want to put that in a motion, that's fine. I don't know if you need to, but,
You probably do that when you come back with the project,
right.
concrete work.
yep.
Okay. All right, the only other question that, like, what you sent to us, the drawings, everything, that's what the final product's gonna be?
Yes, and
Okay.
it is a little bit different than what the Parks and Rec Board has
Yeah.
seen. And at their meeting, their recommendation was Bowling Recreation, option 2, but knowing that maybe we tweaked out the sandbox, a different sandbox. We added a couple swings on the end, and
The glider swing, yeah.
We took a couple things from option 1 and just added them to option 2 to make it more all-inclusive. The swing sets they have in option 2 were just like the handicap accessible. We thought to make it all-inclusive, we needed all swing sets. So
Gotcha.
it's little things like that that we just tweaked.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Jack?
I was at that meeting, and it was quite lengthy, and I will tell you, they did pretty good due diligence in figuring out what they wanted. There was a lot of debate back and forth.
not good
So
questions.
that's what the Park and Rec Board is for,
Correct, I agree.
and they did a good job.
Any other questions for Jack? If not, I need a motion to approve the proposal from Boland Recreation Incorporated for the attached playground design and installation of the rubberized safety surface for the cost of $165,000.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion by Dirks, Councilman Dirks, and a second by Councilman Haley.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The third item is the annual property and liability insurance renewal. And Laura,
Thank you, Mr.
please.
Mayor. Before you tonight is our information for our annual property and liability and workers' comp insurance renewal. The total cost this year, just to back up a second, we have our liability, our property insurance coverage through ICAP and IMWCA, which we work with Mid-Iowa Insurance as our agent. And then we have our liability coverage for the airport through Phoenix Aviation that we work with Stevens and Ziska. So those are the companies we work with. The total cost is $242,661.21, which is about $16,000 less than the previous year. Some of the main reasons why there was a decrease is $3,800 less for liability insurance. That had to do with the way the company rates us. Our operating expenses showed just slightly less than the prior year. And the overall rating that they did, they gave us some more discounts. And then our buildings was a decrease of about $5,700. They just gave us more credit for our buildings, even though we increased the value every year on our buildings for replacement costs. They just rated us really well. The decrease of the worker comp of about $3,200 had to do largely with the discounts that we get from IMWCA, which includes our modification factor, our mod factor, is still really low at 0.71, so we're getting basically a 29% discount from our straight premium. And then because we have such a low mod factor, IMWCA also gives us other discounts. That's just the way they operate. So that helps a lot. This is well within our budgeted amount of when we put our fiscal 19 budget together. I had anticipated $276,000, and so we're well under that. So tonight is before you a resolution to approve renewing these contracts, as well as appointing the city manager and the city clerk as our contacts to work as the liaisons with ICAP for any questions and concerns and things, day-to-day operations that we would need to work with ICAP. Are there any questions? This would also be asking for approval to pay on July 2nd, which is out of next year's budget.
What's public officials liability?
Like you guys.
How come that went up? Did somebody do something wrong? Okay. Just the
Sure didn't
mayor
go
was
up
coming.
much.
That's the only one that stuck out to me. I was like, what did I do? Any other questions for Laura? If not, I need a motion to approve the contract for property, liability, and workers' compensation insurance coverage, which includes payment of premiums on July 2nd, 2018, and to appoint the city manager, Mike Poggeweaver, and city clerk finance director, Laura Schaefer, as the contacts to act as liaisons between the city and ICAP. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Haley and a second by Councilman Fleshner. Go ahead.
Steven?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our fourth item on the agenda is the Northwest Park Pickleball Court Complex, and it is 5:32, and we will open a public hearing. And Jack, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight is the public hearing on the plan specification, form of contract, and estimated costs on the pickleball courts. Those are projected to be at Northwest Park, excuse me. The plans further detail new construction of pickleball courts that's inside the project will take the fence down, but basically the fence will be put back, same spot. Converting the 2 asphalt tennis courts, taking out the asphalt and the concrete underneath there, and coming back with 6 asphalt pickleball courts. There'd be a small 4-foot fence in between the 2 rows of 3 courts, so there'd be 6 pickleball courts there. Similar to a project that Mike and I visited in Minnesota, we thought was a well utilized area for pickleball. The specifications for the detail, the planned improvements, the former contract is a very similar one that we use a lot of projects, the AIA A101 contract, and the estimated cost on this project, $225,000. That was provided by FEH. We have $175,000 in the budget. When we did this budget a year and a half or so ago, planning the budget, that was a number presented by me. What my best estimate was at that point, going into the construction or in the design of these pickleball courts. It was discovered when we did the soil testing, there's a recommendation of taking out 5.5 feet of the soils there, letting 2 options, one letting it dry out and determining if the soil is good enough to recompact in there, or remove that off-site and come in with new dirt. 2 examples I would present to you tonight would be the tennis courts. We chose not to dig down to what was recommended in that project. The pickleball courts, as you know, puddle. There's some cracking. We saw the asphalt construction company sink during that time. So that was one of the projects we chose not to dig down deep enough. The other one would be the skate park, and there's not a crack. We dug that out, we dug down, spent the extra $36,000, I think, at that point for the pickleball courts, very minor cracks. And we did, do reinforced concrete, what's the verbiage, Randy? Post-tension, like a post-tension concrete, that would be the best way of putting it, no cracks. So, that's obviously one option. That would, that's an increase of that $175,000. The other is we weren't sure where the handicap parking, we still need to make this ADA accessible. You're looking at a sidewalk from the southern part of the tennis courts down even south of the playground equipment there, bringing a sidewalk up to the side of the pickleball courts, and you have a handicap parking spot there, concrete handicap parking spot. So those are maybe some of the unknowns and why you would see some of this increase. And we are out to bid. The real test will be the day we open up the envelopes and present that to you. That's going to be what the cost for this project is. So it is currently out to bid, and there's several of the friends of the pickleball courts here. They would love to answer any questions if you have, but I guess we'll know in a few weeks where the cost is.
When are the bids due back?
I don't have it in front of me, like next week, I think.
It's next week?
I think it is, yeah. Then we have a pre-bid meeting tomorrow. So relatively quick, so. And we do have $175,000 in the current budget.
Do you have any idea how to make up the difference?
No.
Because you won't know the true cost really until the bids come in anyway.
Right, yeah. And at that point, you have the option of accepting them, rejecting them, asking, for kind of other ways of paying for it. I will, in the meantime, when we do open the bids, Laura and I and Mike will sit, see if there is funding sources or what we want to do.
Jack, how many parking places is FEH planning?
One.
Just the
One
one?
handicap, yeah.
By the sidewalk?
Yep.
You said?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And that's down on the south side as you come in.
Right, yeah.
Just to the north.
How wide does that sidewalk need to be that goes up there, do you know?
I think it's 5 or 6. Kind of see a rough sketch of what they're saying right here coming up, but
It seems to me that that slopes up a little
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
And that's, we already know that's within acceptable.
yeah, they drew that knowing that it needs to be to the 1 inch to 1 foot slope.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions, any comments or questions from the public?
Any
Any
comments?
comments from the public?
I just hope you approve it, it's gonna be great for Carol. I gave Jack a video of people playing in Arizona with a membership of 325 people, couple members. And it really is a game that you can play with your kids. And, when people get older, they still like to play with their grandkids,
Right.
So
And when I,
it's going to be great.
when I stopped there at 8:30 this morning, there's 8 of them playing. So,
Yeah, that court gets used quite a bit, so.
Has the interest
6 before that.
What do you think the interest has increased from last year? I mean, they started
Yeah,
last year, so.
absolutely. We play 5 times a week, all through
Okay.
the winter.
They're in the rec right now,
Right.
taking 2 courts.
But are more people playing than, say, 365 days ago? More
Yeah.
different
Oh,
people?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
probably
Okay.
I've seen new faces in the rec playing.
All right.
Yeah, it's probably trouble.
And this Jack Christensen that I had in last year from Des Moines, they did the skills clinic.
I remember
You
that.
know, if he came again when it isn't 100 degrees, he could stir up more interest and maybe set up some classes and, you know, maybe Kelly Glass could, you know, be there and just gotta get them involved. And when they once start, they can't, you're addicted. Right?
Right, yeah.
Looks like there's 6 addictees back there right now.
Yeah.
Have you ever held a formal tournament there? Have you ever had a formal tournament?
We
Well,
have.
Not here in Carroll, but they have gone to tournaments, people have
That's what I
gone
was
to
wondering.
tournaments.
I mean, you can go and yeah, you can go to Des Moines.
I played in the Iowa games.
Okay. Good.
It's on ESPN Championships. I saw it flipping the channel there. It's out there.
I did see that. I was watching
A
that.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was on ESPN.
Yep.
Come on and play with them.
Yeah.
Got me out there.
I got extra paddle for you.
Any other questions or comments during the public hearing?
You know, I think once you have the new courts, the courts that are out there aren't usually for tournament play right now. But once you put the 6 courts in a good surface, there will be tournaments. There are not enough tournaments being held in western Iowa right now.
Do you have any guesstimations as to how many people that are actively playing here in the Carroll area?
My guess is it's about 40 to 50 right now. Because there's couples playing at night. You know, I've actually played in 3 different groups, you know, during the day, different days. It's nice being retired now.
And last year, there was probably 7 of us.
And they teach it in the schools, so I think kids will play more too. And it's co-ed, it's not just us old things.
You get a great workout in an hour, 15 minutes.
I
A
know
lot more fun than lifting weights.
they have it at, my son goes to school in Wayne, and they have it there. The college kids are playing it there, so I know it. You guys brought it forward, and then I'm walking through and looking in the Recs department, and bam, pickleball. Wow, okay. So, it's out there. It is. All right, if there are no other comments.
Yeah, I got a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
We approved $175,000 on our budget, and we're $50,000 short. I guess I'm gonna wait and see whether bids come in and where you guys get that $50,000, because I'm a little concerned that we're gonna, spend an extra $50,000 on this year's budget to do this, if that's what it's gonna be. I'm not against pickleball, but we budgeted 175 and now it's 50,000 over. Either we delay it for next year when we can rebudget this, or talk about it, or find out where you're gonna come up with it. That's my concern.
I'd like to have an idea where we're going to fill the gap.
Do you have ideas, Jack, for the shortfall?
I haven't looked into too many grants. United States Pickleball Association, I think they have a $500 grant for new courts
No.
that we would qualify, but there's land and water, maybe opportunities there. So, tennis, you have the USTA, they were in for 36,000, 40,000, and we did that. Schools participated. But other than that, we didn't have a lot of fundraising opportunities.
Do you need this approved in order to apply for the grants?
It helps.
Is there any chance of going to the CAP board for something like this or not, Jack?
We'd have to delay the project. It's probably too late in the timing to go to the CAT grant. If you postpone, they do like being one of the last ones in. Something to think about. I don't know if we're maybe just a little too late if we approve the bids at the next meeting.
So what are we approving tonight, Mayor?
This is just the plans and the specifications.
Okay.
This is stuff just to get it looked at
Right.
in order
That's what
for
I
us
read.
to.
Let the bids.
Yeah,
You know the cost estimate now.
You know the cost
You can
estimate.
always reject the bids.
Right.
right. But this gives us the plan, and if those are in place, then if we reject the bids or we can find other grant money, then it can still proceed ahead. But you can still, if the bids come in at 300,000,
Yeah.
I mean, then you're gonna be in trouble there, so there's another chance, yeah. But at least this just gets it rolling.
And you're thinking 2 weeks you'll have those bids in?
I believe so.
Are the players in the group, are you aware of any other places we could go to seek funding?
Is there what?
Any other chances for funding, any other grant opportunities, places that you know of through
Oh.
through people that you know, or
What
grants?
about
and-
Kathy Polly at Regent 12?
She plays.
She plays.
She said she could.
And she said she would pursue it or buy it.
Right,
Yeah.
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 Well, we can check the Region 12. It's,
Just looking for different ideas.
Yeah, right.
You might be able to ask the schools too, I wonder, because they take the kids to the park for recess and
PE class.
classes, so that might be an idea.
Because I think they contributed to the tennis courts.
Right,
The
but
schools
that's
did,
a
but, yeah.
lettered sport. I mean,
And then,
people letter in it.
Yeah,
We did have, for the skate park, the group
They
went
did
out
some
and
fundraising.
solicited some
Mhm.
donations.
right,
So I know Jackie Montgomery led that group. there.
Right.
correct.
We just have to realize there's a shortfall and what are, we gotta figure out how to fill it or delay it for our budget session next year.
Correct.
The reason I asked about a tournament is I was just thinking, and it wasn't even my idea, but I have had a couple people come to me and ask if there was a way to fundraise privately, suggesting a fundraising tournament as one example of ways that this could get going, since I'm going to assume it's over the budget that we approved, so I mean, if there's something like that that's possible, it'd be you guys that would have to do it. Why don't you think about that over 2 weeks and see if there's anything like that that
Okay.
would be feasible.
There was a few private donations on the tennis courts.
Mhm.
So tennis players did donate, so.
In Arizona, when we're part of the club, they have a $25 per person,
Mhm.
fee. So, if that would be something that if you want to.
Is that
private?
We could.
Is that private? Is that,
It's- Yes, Brooks
Okay.
and Ranch is gated community, yes.
Right. See, it would be tough to
Yeah.
expect
Yeah.
that sort of thing for a public,
Yeah.
for something functioning as a public entity.
And that's not big enough dollars to make a difference.
No, it wouldn't,
I
it
mean,
wouldn't add up.
100
If
people
we're
on
right on this,
$25.
Yeah.
this gap, that's not going to make it, so, if we can maybe brainstorm and find out as soon as we can what maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised,
Okay.
so.
Any other questions or comments going once?
Can I just ask,
Yeah,
are you at the level now where you're going to accept the 175,000 and then once the bid comes in, re-talk about what's going on? Or are you at the 175,000 or,
We're issuing debt.
I'm sorry.
We're issuing debt, general obligation bonds for the 175,000. That's how we budgeted for this to get it going. So we will be paying interest on the debt. And how long was the
No.
issuance? Do you remember?
Laura?
It's tied in with the library
Right,
debt,
so
and I
it's-
think that was like a 18-year.
Yeah, so.
okay.
You're asking, what's your question specifically, I guess?
Asking about the approval of it.
If we're-
Does it,
This tonight's just the approval of the plans and the specifications to get, the drawings and the engineering and all that, just to get that, so we have that done up front, which we have to have done. before we start digging and
Yes,
putting the concrete in,
absolutely.
right?
Let's see where the bids come in at, then
Right.
we'll rehash
Think
what
two.
we're doing. Yep.
2 weeks from now is where we need to have that conversation and where we need help from your group, Jack, the rest of
Yeah.
us, to try to come up with a way to fill the gap if we're going to do that. That's, so if you're looking at, we're gonna approve it tonight, no, that's
Right,
probably a
that'll be
couple
in 2
weeks from now.
The final approval will come when the bids come in,
Yeah.
and then that's
Before
where,
a bid
so
opening.
maybe brainstorm with Jack and get an idea of where we can go, okay?
Yep, we'll do that.
All right, any other comments, questions? Seeing none, it is 5:50 and we'll close the public hearing. And then I need a motion to approve the resolution adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and the opinion of cost for the pickleball court complex.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Fleischner and a second by Councilwoman Seaman.
Dirk?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Fleischner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The fifth item on the agenda under resolutions is the downtown streetscape Phase 9 project construction phase services agreement. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The original design services agreement for the Streetscape Phase 9 did not contain services for construction observation, or construction services. We do plan that the city personnel will do the day-to-day construction observation, but we do need some assistance from Confluence for clarification of plans, meetings, review submittals, and then final punch listing. So we had requested and received a proposal to do that, provide those services, which is attached. They will do those on an hourly basis with an estimate of about $23,600. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend approval of the professional services agreement for those streetscape services.
Any other questions for Randy? If not, I need a motion to approve an agreement for limited professional services with Confluence for the Corridor of Commerce Downtown Streetscape Phase 9 project.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Haley and a second by Councilman Fleischner.
Dirk?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our final resolution this evening is the re-subdivision of Lot B, of Lot 3 and Lot 4, Eastview First Subdivision, City of Carroll, Carroll County, Iowa, preliminary and final plat. And Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Al's Corner Oil Company and the Pit Stop Auto Wash have submitted and requesting approval tonight for a preliminary and final plat to be named re-subdivision of Lot B of Lot 3, Lot 4, Eastview First Subdivision. This property is located north side of Plaza Drive, just west of Griffith Road. The purpose of this plat is to facilitate a land swap between the two property owners and to allow a building expansion to the Pit Stop Auto Wash. There are no new streets, right-of-ways, or public utilities as proposed as part of this development. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review this on June 13th and recommended that the Carroll City Council approve the requested re-subdivision as stated, the preliminary and final plats with conditions that are noted in the staff report. I would note that the applicant has agreed to those conditions. With that, I'd be happy to answer any question that the council may have.
So this is just to allow access? Is that-
It's just moving some lot lines
Okay,
around.
all right. Any other questions for Mike?
I see the planning and zoning has already recommended it.
Correct.
Yeah. That's correct. Any other questions for Mike? Not, I need a motion to approve the subdivision of Lot B, of Lot 3 and Lot 4, Eastview First Subdivision, preliminary and final plats with conditions as noted on the report recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved. Second?
We have a motion by Councilman Fleischner and a second by Councilman Dirks.
Base? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to our first report this evening, and it's a West Central Iowa Water Association request to provide water service within the 2-mile limit. Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. West Central Water has made the request to provide water service within the 2-mile limit to Mike Janning at 21804 160th Street. Your options are dictated by Iowa Code, and they're listed in the memorandum. I would recommend, unless there are any questions, that you waive the right to provide water service, and in that case, West Central will probably provide the water service.
Yeah, it's a little far away. Any other questions for Randy? If not, I'll need a motion to waive the right to provide water service and allow West Central Iowa the request within the 2-mile limit.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilman Haley and a second by Councilman Fleischner.
Base? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The second final report this evening is a discussion on the Carroll Park Apartments development incentives. And Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Earlier this year, the City of Carroll was approached by Dave Walters, who is here this evening, of Greenstream Homes of Iowa, who was considering constructing new apartments within the City of Carroll. Ultimately, this project will be owned by a group called Canyon Hills Ridge LLC. Owners are Dean Quirk and Paul Stender. Greenstream Homes of Iowa has been working on these plans for a number of months and has submitted them both a rezoning request and a preliminary plat that will be considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission at this point, tentatively on July 11th. The proposed development calls for the construction of 2 30-unit, 3-story market-rate apartments on the south side of the property with 8 owner-occupied duplex buildings for a total of 16 units on the north side of the property. The property today is bounded on the south side by commercial and on the north side, single-family residential. The apartments will all be 2-bedroom units with a higher level of interior finishes, including washer and dryer in each unit, granite countertops, oak cabinets, etc. Rents for the units in the 30-unit building is targeted between $950 and $1,000 per month, and the duplexes are, I believe, marketed at, or proposed to be in the range of about $240,000 per unit. Initially, developer plans to construct the public streets and public utility, plat the duplex units, and build one of the 2-unit apartment buildings, or one of the 2 apartment buildings, likely the westernmost building. Once the first apartment building is sufficiently rented, the developer will begin construction on the second building. As part of this, the developer is requesting that the city establish an urban renewal district for the development and provide a TIF rebate for public infrastructure that would be installed to serve the development. Based on the values estimated by Carroll County Assessor's Office and using the current fiscal year 2019 tax rates and projected rollbacks based on calculations from PFM, the city staff had estimated that a total of $1.1 million could be generated in TIF funds from the development over 10 years, assuming everything is built within the first year. Through a TIF rebate to the developer, the city may only rebate the total cost of the public infrastructure. JAO has completed an engineer's conceptual opinion of probable cost on the public utilities and estimated that the public utilities will cost approximately $493,060. Obviously, this estimate is subject to change as plans are still under review and modifications are still possible. Since this is a market rate development without low to moderate income housing units, an amount equal to the percentage of LMI housing in Carroll County is required to be set aside that will benefit housing for LMI households in the city in the future. For the Carroll County, the percentage of LMI housing is 38.9%. So in order to generate TIF amount of $493,060, a total of $806,970 in TIF funds would need to be collected, with $313,912 being set aside for LMI housing needs. Some items for the council to keep in mind: that there is a number of due diligent items that the city staff needs to complete before the council would move forward with this request. If the council would entertain providing this type of incentive to the developer, staff would suggest, in order to protect the city, that the developer first construct the public utilities and then dedicate them to the city as a condition of the TIF rebate, and that any TIF rebates would be made only after taxes are paid, LMI set aside is done, and be limited to 10 years or until the total cost of the public utilities rebated back to the developer. With that, staff simply tonight is looking for some direction from the council if this is the type of incentive they would like to extend before staff spends substantial time and effort on it, and before we incur any legal expenses in setting up the urban renewal district. With that, Mayor and Council, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have this evening and turn it over to you. So thank you.
So this area is currently not in an urban renewal district?
That's correct.
Okay. I knew we had some out that way, but I didn't.
No,
No,
this
part of
area
it
is
said
not
it
in
was-
an urban renewal
Ah,
district.
okay.
What is the rezoning request from what to what?
It's one of the residential class. I apologize.
So
off the
it
top of my
is
head.
residential, it's not
Commercial.
It would not be
any...
commercial. It's
No,
from like,
I know it could
Probably
be
single,
commercial, but
multi.
The
I was
multi-dwelling.
just curious.
I believe it's R5, but I could be mistaken
Oh,
on that.
Okay.
So it would have to be a multifamily. It's not a PUD in this case.
That's what I was wondering about, because that's what they did in Webster City.
Yep. And certainly, that could be a direction the council would want. A PUD would provide some additional protections in the sense of you would then limit what could be built. But
Right.
in this case, with the TIF, there's going to be a development agreement, and the council certainly could stipulate in the development agreement certain aspects, certain types of development, finishes, building type in the development agreement. So that could be certainly made a condition of the development agreement also. So there's a couple different avenues the council could take to protect
Right,
themselves.
You mentioned the term sufficiently rented regarding moving from one unit to two.
Yeah.
And do you have a definition what sufficiently rented is?
I would look towards the developer on that, I guess.
Let's hear it.
Come on up, name. Give us your name and.
My name's Dave Walters,
Dave,
and
thanks,
I'm
Dave.
representing Carroll Park Apartment Project. We probably want to be 2/3 leased up with the first building. I think I think 60 units will lease up in Carroll, I really do. So, but we want to be kind of safe at first, so we're going to start one building. And I'd say 2/3 to, maybe 75% is when we'd start the second building.
Are you going to construct the apartment building and the townhomes at the same time?
We're going to put one building up first, and
Okay.
then we're going to build 4 townhomes.
4 townhomes
Yeah.
afterwards, okay.
So, and they'll probably be from 229 to 249 range, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Your apartment, you're going to rent those on a one-year lease contract, or?
Normally
you have
it's
no
6
time?
months, but.
6 months?
Yeah, 6 months to a year. You like to get a year if you can, but, some of them will be 6 months. And Mike explained it pretty well. We're going to have hardwood floors, all hardwood floors in these units except for the bedrooms, granite countertops. They all have laundry. We're trying to, I don't want somebody changing their oil out in the driveway, so, the rents are going to be high enough, we think, that will attract people that are working steadily, so.
That was my question, was who your target was, so.
Yeah, we're trying to, and I know that Carroll's only 10,000 people, but I think you got a lot of people traveling into Carroll from other areas, so we're hoping that we pick up a lot of those folks, so. And Dean's from up in this area. We met with you guys here a week or so ago, and he's the one that spearheaded Carroll, and I was shocked. I've never been to Carroll until I came up and started looking. This is a clean town. It's a nice town. And I think you have a real need here. So, or I don't think Dean would even think about wasting his time, so.
Did we do some calculations for the amount of dollars it's going to take for income to afford this is like $20 an hour per household?
To be considered affordable, generally, that's 30% of your income going towards housing needs, and that would calculate out to about $19 an hour.
In our packet, you've included a picture of the Webster City Apartments. I tried to find information on that. The only thing I could find, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, is the only, what was granted by the city council in Webster City was the zoning was allowed. No financial incentives, no TIF or anything. And it went ahead without the incentives. And I guess I'm hearing what you're saying, that Carroll can fill these, that we're going to bring in people from, maybe from out of town that are working here. And if that is true, I guess my thought is, if you believe it's going to fill and it's going to be a success, there's no point in the TIF incentive, because it'll play out in the marketplace and it will be a success. That's what I'm thinking, that if those are your thoughts, and I read also, that's what other cities have done. I think it was in Dallas County, may have been Adel, granted them the zoning, no TIF incentives. So I want you to be successful. We all do. So if that's the case, the marketplace has worked very well for Carroll.
Sure.
That's why it's so clean and nice and
Yeah.
has diverse housing available.
We did get $2 million in Webster City, TIF.
Oh, you did?
We
I
did.
could not find
And I've got
anything.
I can send you the letter, from there.
The 2 million, and that was for the infrastructure?
That's correct, for all of the
Okay.
infrastructure,
Okay. Well,
we're doing
I
six.
couldn't find anything. I appreciate your...
Okay, yeah, if I can get your email address, I'll.
Yeah, I'm on the city website.
Okay.
Carolyn Seaman.
The city attorney sent that letter out about a week and a half ago, so I did
Okay.
get that. And,
Okay.
I don't know 100% for sure if that's going to happen. And here's the other thing, you guys, that's really tough. When you come to the rural area like this, these projects, these 60 units are around 6.7 million. Well, when you go to do an appraisal, and we did this up in Webster City, we got an appraisal, it came in at $4 million, okay? Because there's no comps. Anywhere out in the rural areas, people haven't built for 25, 30 years. So you have nothing to go to, so there's a huge gap. I mean, so if a bank says, well, we'll appraise it $4 million, the bank will loan you 80% of that. So you get $3.2 million on a $6.7 million project. So that, we're fighting that also, on top of everything else. So, and I just purposed, if I can't get at least TIF or some kind of a tax abatement, it's just something that won't work for us. So, and I understand if the city, if it's something they can't do, they can't do, so. But I'd rather hear it now than, like Mike said, keep going through this, because we've already spent like $45,000 between plans and engineering to get to this point, so.
And I would note, city managers are good at talking to each other. And over the last several months, I've had a lot of conversation with Daniel Ortiz, who's the city manager for Webster City. They have done the I actually didn't know it was that amount. I thought it was I thought it was about $1 million, but I trust what you say.
I just got it.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything in the council minutes or anything.
But so I understand through him that they have approved some incentives in Webster City.
Okay.
And it's one of those things. We did compare it to, we did an incentive earlier this year with the Rolling Hills South project, and that was about $6,000 a unit. If you apply the $493,000 just to the apartment side and don't include the duplexes, that pencils out to about $6,300 per unit.
What, I know, with the housing study and so on and the talk in the town, people really support our incentivizing ownership, and that's what you just mentioned, Matt's. That was about ownership, the 6. And I think that's why we were also supportive. That was, incentivizing people to own. He also is a local developer. We know him. He lives in our, in town. He's accessible, available. So I think that's kind of apples to oranges. I guess my thoughts on this, I know there is a demand for market rate apartments. Yeah, apartments. But when I look around and see what other towns are doing in the county, and they were all a part of the housing needs assessment, they're all working at incentivizing ownership. You got that going on in Manning. We're building 5 houses, then when those are sold, then we're going to come and build 5 more, et cetera. Ownership in Templeton, ownership in Breda, Breda with their lots, and then they have, I think, down payment or whatever, help down in Templeton. And I guess when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about how we worked with Matt on his condos. And I like the duplexes. I think, and those, they're 240,000, you can't, because they're over the 215 threshold, you can't participate in the Iowa workforce tax credit that Matt participated in. And I think you could, I think if you started with that one building, I think, Dave, you would reach that threshold of 2/3 or 3/4. I think you could do that. Personally, I want to keep incentivizing that ownership because I do believe you can make it work with your apartments. As maybe some kind of a compromise on this, and I don't know what other due diligence you intend to do. Would that be before the P&Z meets, or would that be, are you going to do, you mentioned you need to do some more looking into some things, staff.
Urban renewal too.
Well, I think it's setting up the urban renewal, and it's just making sure we're protecting the city.
Oh, sure. But I could see doing something along the lines that we did with Matt, and doing some type of incentivizing the ownership of the duplexes. And then let you plan, obviously you're experienced with apartments, and then, do your first apartment and see how it goes.
Carolyn, I think that program's been closed, though.
Yeah, it has.
Matt did?
Yeah.
He got right before.
I know, but his are overpriced. He couldn't.
No, but I mean that program
apply
you're talking about?
Right.
The
but
Iowa
he
workforce is
couldn't-
closed.
Yeah,
it is.
but he wouldn't qualify for that
Okay,
anyway,
right.
because these are like 25,000 over the price of construction. But I could see helping with your infrastructure, getting you going with the duplexes, and then on your own with the apartments. Because I know there is a pent-up demand. I think you could make that work without us. But those are my thoughts. I really believe people fully support our incentivizing the ownership.
Are you going to be able to come to Carroll just doing the duplexes, though? I mean,
No.
if you can't get the assistance
Yeah,
in the apartment building, you're not going to do the
Right,
duplexes.
right.
Well, I wonder how much would the infrastructure change to service the duplexes versus the apartments?
It wouldn't, because it's the 16 run that full length of the road, so you have to run the sewer and the water and sanitary and the paving all the way down to the end, so it's all going to have to be put in. So
One way or the other, wouldn't it?
If we reduce it too much, then we reduce the LMI also.
Right.
Didn't our housing study, didn't we say that we needed both of these? We need apartments for rent, and we need homes for owners to buy. So, I don't know, I look at it as that we've talked about it, we've looked at the study, and I think we need to do something.
I'll tell you what I brought some of the information from the study And in the county community survey and the workforce survey, 93% of the respondents said that, in response to the question, what new housing products do you think would be successful in Carroll County? Number one at 93%, mid-sized 3-bedroom home. Number two at 86%, affordable small 2-3-bedroom house. Also at 86%, townhouses. Then 78% senior living housing, and then apartments come in after that. So
I hear you
that's
saying-
why
I hear
I'm
you saying
talking
that,
about
but
incentivizing the ownership.
I also have friends who are realtors, and they can't find anything to rent in this town, so I just don't know where we find the mix. What's the best mix for that? Because
I guess
renters.
I'm arguing, I think he could be successful in the marketplace. Look at all the successful apartments we have in town, and we have not, they've just let it play out in the marketplace, and they have gotten built. And we have a lot of apartments that are successful and very nice in Carroll. But you're saying you aren't going to do this without some type of incentive.
Yes. There's just so many areas in Iowa that need this kind of building, so we're just kind of going where we can at least get some kind of an incentive, because it is a risk. I mean, I don't know 100% if we come in. I hope I'm right, but if it's not, we need some kind of an incentive. So,
Let me ask you this too. Let's say that you have that you're not satisfied with the occupancy. Would you, how long are you intending to wait before you decide, how long will you wait before you decide to build the second?
well,
apartment?
if we don't lease it up, we probably won't build it for, I mean, it'd be silly to start another building if we couldn't lease up the first one.
Would
but-
you wait like a couple of years, or how long? I guess your time frame.
I just, probably at least a year, I suppose, to see if you
Give it
have
a
time, give it a
chance.
chance to fill up, and then start the second building at that point.
And will you have had I like the idea of the duplexes. I think those would be very, very popular.
Yeah.
So would you be building those at the same time as the
We're
apartment?
going to start 4 of the townhomes, and as they sell, if we sell 2, we're going to start another building. We're just going to keep going.
So you're incrementally.
Mhm. So until we get all 16 of them built out,
Okay.
so.
I don't think he's gonna wait until the full apartment. If the
I
townhomes
just-
are sold, he'll go to the next and do the next set of townhomes.
Well, that's why I was curious about.
And one of the
what
things
he-
that I would throw out
Yeah.
too is if you do that, you get the next 4 townhomes sold, run another set of townhomes in place of the apartments if the
Sure.
apartments aren't
Sure.
moving so well.
That's what I was going to ask you next. If you didn't, if you were satisfied with the 130 unit, would you reconsider doing something else in place of, something
It-
like Eric?
It's something we'd have to come back to the city with, but
Yeah.
yes, I
Agreed,
mean, I'd come
otherwise.
back and, we started out, Mike and I started, we had 90 units planned, and I just didn't like the way it fit. To me, it was crowded. It just didn't look right, so I had them take one full building completely out. But back to your question, if that happens, we could take out the second building, come back to the city, and re-engineer it for more townhomes, and finish the whole project out and just keep the 130-plex. I
Would
mean,
would that be very difficult would we amend
Well,
the
it
TIF
would-
agreement then?
It absolutely would take an amendment to the
Okay,
development
so- but
agreement.
it could be
It
done.
could be done
It can be
now.
done.
And even though he's doing this incrementally with the 2 30-unit apartments, they're both under the same TIF agreement, correct?
We would
So,
write it all as one.
as
One
is,
agreement. That's what I
okay.
would suggest too.
Okay.
And
I
But
I
then-
like that he's flexible and pragmatic about how this evolves.
Just to kind of watch to see how it works.
Yes.
If you
yeah.
drive out there and look at this land, we went out there after that
Did
meeting. Yeah, it really plays out.
It lends itself
Yeah,
to
it
doing
really
this,
does.
it really
Until you
does.
actually drive there and look at that, you're thinking, oh my God, this is 3 stories, but it's actually down in the valley.
It
so
really is, yeah.
It's gonna look like a 1 or 2 story
Yeah.
duplex because
Yeah.
it's down low.
Yeah.
But you also, if this thing really plays out, there's a whole nother section of land to the east of that.
That-
That he
Right,
could
I saw
develop
that on
that too.
the-
And we have an option on that,
So you got both.
option to buy,
Yeah.
yeah. If it's
So-
successful, I'd like to just keep moving through it,
Keep right on going east.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So,
Okay.
You know, and if you're worried about selling the homes on the north side of that, well, the developer, that's that's gonna be his decision.
That's gonna be,
You know, we're not in the play of that.
Right.
no.
And you got town, you know.
And it should be noted that Steffes Construction, which is, you know,
Right.
they're owning, they're selling this property to Greenstream. They own the property.
Right,
No-
right.
So if there's anyone that has invested interest, it's
Right.
And they have
And they're the
new
ones that's selling this
development,
land to
right.
this gentleman.
Yeah.
And guys, we're going to try to use Carroll people for this, as many as I can, you know, for construction. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity in Carroll to bid on this work. I mean, I have plenty of subcontractors out of Des Moines that'll come up here, but I'm going to try to utilize local, because I believe you should stay local if you can, so.
Would you use local materials like and appliances? I know.
If they're competitive, you bet.
Okay, so you'll be,
I'm going to bid them out here in Carroll to see if we can't use them, you know.
okay.
Dave,
We're
is
doing
the
that up in
final
Webster
look that
City
you
also.
decided on? Is that the final look, Dave, that you decided on?
The
Over
what?
there,
Yeah,
The
that's it.
flat roof with the,
Can you guys see that?
put it up in front of the camera, so.
Thank you. That rendition, is that specific for Carroll, or is that similar to what you did in
Webster City, yeah.
Okay,
We have two versions of it, so.
okay.
We think this is, I just like this better than the other one. The other one has a hip roof on it, but this one has, I think, a little more character in today's world.
Well, I like the flat roof because down in that valley,
You bet that,
you know, it's that much less that,
Mhm.
you know, you have to see again.
I agree.
How are the apartments rented out up there in Webster City now? Are they full?
Webster City has 5 homes for sale in the whole city. They have no apartments. They're 100% leased. We haven't started them yet. We're just grading up there now. But we've had so much rain. We've had 9 tractors up there for 3 weeks and we can't
We
move.
can't get
Yeah.
it going.
So, but there is a huge need in Webster City, and they did a study like you guys did, and they need 188 units. And that's over, I mean, study was done 5 years ago in 13. They need 188 units, and no one has filled any of those until we came to town. And they're building there's a hog confinement or something going on up there
Prestige
where they're
Farms.
bringing 1,000 employees in November. They got no place for these people to go. So we're just trying to fill that need, so.
How many parking spots for each unit?
Mike can answer that. I think it's like 2 per unit.
Yeah, our
But
minimum
but no
code,
garages,
Yeah,
right? Or-
there's
Yeah.
30 garages.
Oh, there are garage, okay. When
it's hard to see, but if you look at this plan here,
I couldn't.
the
I was
garages
trying to
are
figure it
kind of
out.
rectangular boxes on the south side. So they sit here and here.
If you have
Okay.
30 parking places, you have 15 for enclosed.
I couldn't
Okay.
tell by looking at it either, but are they mostly 1 or 2, or are they a mix of both?
They're all 2 bedrooms.
They're all 2 bedrooms.
2 bedroom, 2 baths. Per unit.
You have some experience with this, that third story, are those apartments obviously tougher to rent for you than?
They're
are
the
gonna be
first
cheap?
ones to go.
Yeah.
The third, people
first
want
one.
out.
Yeah, everybody wants on the
Okay.
top.
They want the view.
Even without an elevator.
Believe it or not, they do.
Highway.
You don't want to hear people stomping around. on top of it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
I would say
question.
one thing
Is
about
there no
apartments
elevators?
of this
Well, there's no elevator.
type. I've thought about, Carolyn, what you were bringing up. Sometimes people that come into town for these apartments, they're the first ones that want a house to encourage them. I mean, you know, if you're
Yeah,
looking
oh,
at,
yeah,
you know, they'll rent for a couple of years and think, I love Carroll. Let's stay,
Right,
let's find a
yeah,
house.
right.
So I do think it will lead to,
It's a starter for them, you know.
I've known several different people in that exact scenario. Right. They've been living somewhere else, they come into town. Now it's the next step, we've got a child or two now, I want to live in Carroll.
Or if this is, or if
To me, I think it indirectly does just what you want,
It will
which is
filter
encourages,
them
well, it
in, yeah.
encourages homeownership.
Yeah.
in a limited housing market, it gives them the opportunity to come to town, get started in their careers or jobs. We have professionals who come into town
Yeah.
and then find or build a home.
or if they're in a transition job, they don't want to buy, now they can
Mm-hmm.
rent.
Right.
So you don't think the 60 is overkill? You
Not at
think?
all.
At first I thought 60.
No, not at all.
I had the same thought.
But he's just starting with 30 and then,
Yeah.
yeah.
And these are $1,000 a month. That-
Yeah, but, you know, if people want workers, they need to pay good wages. So
Yeah.
you're really helping incentivize people to,
Guys, with the workforce the way it is today, we have a shortage of workers all over the United States.
yeah.
And I think you're going to see wages go up 20 to 30% in the next 3 years.
they
I
need
really
it to
do.
in this area.
I mean, how does a family live on $13, $14 an hour? I don't know how you could do that, but,
Well-
and some of these manufacturers are going to have to learn that.
And I think too, you're incentivizing people to work. I mean, it will
Yeah.
take two incomes to
get it
to
done.
live in this, and I think you're right, Jerry, and the others, that this could be a pipeline to ownership.
One of the things I like about the TIF is the percentage of this TIF will go into LMI for us.
Right.
And then, then we can have that option down the road to start working with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to address that.
Otherwise,
at
we
some
don't have
point,
it.
too.
Otherwise, we won't have that.
Do you guys have a property manager already in place, or are you going to look for somebody here locally?
We'll hire somebody locally, but all of them I put up on-site. So I don't want any problems. I don't want any, like I said, oil being changed down the driveway, things like that. I've owned up to 1,200 apartments years ago, and I have in-house managers that run them, but we have a manager on every site. So it just works real well that way. And then they answer to a manager in-house once a month.
Dave, would you explain, you will be the initial, your group will construct the duplexes and apartments, but then our memo says, but ultimately the project will be owned by Kenyon Hill Ridge, which is Quirk and Stender.
Right.
So, we're talking about flexibility, maybe it, it'll work with the two, maybe it won't. When do you intend to hand off, or when will Kenyon Hill Ridge take over ownership in your scenario?
Well, I'm a part of that group.
You
So,
are?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm a part owner. I'm a 33% owner
Okay.
of that group.
Okay.
So I'll always be a part of it. So,
It'll always be.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't quite
Get 1/3 of the say.
understand.
I'm one thing, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and Dean's a really good guy. You guys met him. He's just
Yeah.
a hard-working excavator, basically, and he's done very well in life. So he's been a great partner of mine, and, he's the one that got me to come up here to look at even Carroll.
That's what he said.
Yeah, otherwise I never would have even thought about Carroll. So, but I love Carroll. I think you guys are blessed to live in a town like this. I mean, I've been all over the state of Iowa. Let me tell you something, Webster City doesn't look like Carroll. No way, shape, or form. So,
And the incentive that we're working with here is pretty close to the same percentage of the incentive that Mac Radaman.
Would be giving
Well,
you.
it is,
Right.
yeah, the 38%.
Okay.
So it's fair.
You're right.
Do you have an idea of direction as a staff?
Well, if I don't hear differently, we'll proceed, we'll begin working with Allers Cooney to develop the urban renewal district.
What's your cost there, Mike, estimated?
It's going to be about $5,000 to $10,000.
I'd like you to continue exploring it if you're looking for counsel input.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you need a vote on that?
I don't need a vote, but just,
Do you need verbiage in there about the occupancy before they proceeded with another unit and all that or not?
we can discuss that. I
Okay.
mean, certainly if that's something the council wants, we can have that discussion with the developer, and
We're
it's
open to
certainly
that.
something that we can put in the development.
I agree with Clay.
You good? Okay.
well, thank you very
Thank
much,
you
you
very much,
guys.
Dave.
And
Thanks for coming. Appreciate your
Mike's got
time.
my number. If you need to call me, just any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer.
Very good.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thanks for your time.
Trust everyone's read the committee reports and the monthly activity reports. I have no comments this evening. Are there any, well, other than, you want to give an update on fireworks? Sorry, Brad.
Still illegal.
Okay.
We've only had a few calls since they started sales, but now that we see sales ramping up, we'll get more calls. So far, it's been pretty quiet. There was an entry a week or two ago in Arcadia from fireworks, so it kind of drives home the safety issue that comes with it.
The only feedback I'm getting so far is they don't understand that they may be getting charged $250 this year.
It'll be up to the courts to determine how much the fine would be. It's not a scheduled violation such as a traffic ticket, so you would present someone with a court appearance requirement, they would show up and the judge would determine how much the fine would be. But the minimum amount is $250. The good thing is, we've done the warnings, there's been notices on the radio and the paper, people are aware of it, now it's taking different action.
Listening to the news, Des Moines is at $625 minimum.
So we're quite a bit cheaper than they are.
Remind me too, Brad, though, what's the maximum the court can do? Because it's a higher limit.
I mean, I looked at Dave for the answer on that one, I'm listening here, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they could go up to a couple $1,000.
I was thinking 1,500, but
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
So it's considerably more than 250.
Depending on the
It's the
severity of
judge.
the...
Yeah.
Yeah. But the minimum's 250.
Okay.
It leaves it up to the discretion of the magistrate at that point.
Any comments from the council? I think we got that done. Comments from the city manager?
I was just going to comment that I was part with Dr. Jensen here, contingency that went out to DC as part of Access Washington with the Carroll Area Development Corporation. We did get to meet with all of our Congress people, had some good discussions. Our two topics that we took with the city of Carroll was one, our wastewater treatment and the copper reduction, and both continued the discussions about looking at ways to get some remedies with the EPA to see if we can get some changes in their Clean Water Act and how this applies to Carroll and the copper reduction. The second discussion was looking for some possible funding, especially if that project would exceed a $5 million point of, is there some dollars from USDA water and wastewater grant program. The second item we took was we had a discussion really kind of introing this for the first year, was looking for some grant funding and support through USDA community facilities, and specifically seeking about a 15% grant from the USDA for that potential project of $9 million that we're looking to do at the rec center. Nothing I would report came out of either of those discussions, but really I think a lot of these times is just laying some groundwork, and we'll continue having discussion with staff. And since I've been back, we've actually had some communication back and forth with some staffers, in particular from Senator Ernst's office, helping us through these issues. So overall, I think it was a good meetings.
We met with one congressman that does not represent us, and he was at least interested in talking to the EPA about maybe reducing some of those restrictions on the copper, so that it doesn't put us so far extended into $5 million projects to reduce it by 0.06 of a milligram. I mean, it just, so that's where we're at. At least there was a foothold there. At least they were all interested in listening. So.
Otherwise, good meetings. We had a lot of different topics that we talked about from Carroll County, and good participation. So, thank you.
If there is nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. There's a motion and a second.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Hayden?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.